Have you noticed how strange people's perceptions are when it comes to happiness? Whether they're rich or poor, whether they earn a lot or barely get by, people will often say the same thing. They want to be happy, or they're unhappy. I'm sure you've heard stories like this many times. So what's important about money? It depends where the line is. When you don't have money, it feels very important. Once you have enough, money becomes unimportant. I hope you can find that line and hold to it. If you always push that line upward, always wanting more, you'll become greedy and never satisfied. True happiness lies in realizing what is enough. Everyone is different. You don't have to be the same as others. And this doesn't apply only to money. It reflects a deeper truth about human nature. Whether it's wealth, relationships, or even trust, crossing the line too far often creates imbalance. Just as wanting too much money leads to greed, and in relationship, being too suspicious can harm your peace of mind, Chinese people tend to have high alertness and a strong tendency to be suspicious. Being suspicious of others shows you're alert. That's not wrong. Suspicion is fine, but you must investigate before jumping to conclusions. If you suspect something, check carefully. If your suspicion isn't justified, stop suspecting. If it is justified, handle it in a way that doesn't cause harm. That's the right approach. And dealing with suspicion isn't just about being right or wrong. It's also about how you manage relationships. Even when your suspicion proves correct, the way you handle it can either preserve harmony or create conflict. This is where Chinese wisdom adds another layer, managing people in a way that balances truth with kindness. In Chinese practice, there's often an artful strategy. Encourage the other person to step back naturally without causing them to lose face. Don't openly reject someone and cause them to feel humiliated. Instead, allow them to retreat on their own and reflect for change. This is not science, it's an art. Once I was in the US and happened to witness a situation at McDonald's. A young man wanted to buy breakfast, but the attendant said breakfast service had ended. They were serving only lunch. The young man insisted he liked their breakfast, not the lunch. The manager said, "Policies forbid selling breakfast now." The young man then unzipped his jacket and pulled out a gun, demanding the breakfast. The scene got tense. The young server panicked and went to the manager again. At last, the manager decided to sell the young man the breakfast. From this lesson, I want you to understand that sometimes rules can't control decent people. Rules only restrain wrongdoers. So if someone truly turns violent or dangerous, there's nothing you can do to stop them. I was the only Chinese person there, so they asked me, "Professor Zeng, how would you handle something like this in China?" I said, "We wouldn't handle it that way." They were surprised. "Don't you have guns in China?" I replied, "This has nothing to do with guns." Then I offered to demonstrate. I told the McDonald server to step aside and said, "I'll be the McDonald server." A young man volunteered to play the customer and said, "I want a breakfast." I thought to myself, I'm not going to recite rules to him. I won't say it's past time, we can't serve breakfast or anything like that. Instead, I said, "Breakfast? No problem." Then I looked around and said, "Oh no, we're out of breakfast." I asked him, "So what would you like?" He said, "Never mind." Chinese people know the rules exist, but what we say and what we mean may be different. Another scenario, what if the young man points at someone's meal and says, "Look, isn't that breakfast?" I would say, that's even simpler. If he points at something and says, "What about that one?" I'll say, "Yes, that's breakfast. Do you want it? I can give it to you for free. That's just breakfast that somebody returned." And he'd say, No, I don't want it." See, He doesn't want it. That's the difference. Chinese people often put emotion, Qing, before reason, Li. Putting emotion first means letting reason live in the heart, not in the mouth. You know regulations exist. In the heart, you weigh what's reasonable or not. But when it comes to speaking, you just say all kinds of things loosely, and that's called emotion, Qing. We first express the feeling, Qing, and let the person discover the logic, Li, themselves. This way, you don't offend anyone and help them save face. That's why Chinese people often say, it doesn't matter, no problem, anything's fine, whatever. Outwardly, we say that, but inside we're thinking, let's see what happens. Our words and our hearts aren't always consistent, not very consistent. It takes time to understand this, and it's very much an art. If you state the reasoning directly, the other person may feel unhappy. If you spell out the rule, they may even turn against you. So the wisdom lies in putting emotion first, then reason. Lead with feeling to guide the other person into reasoning. It's subtle and effective. So keep some reserve and give people space to navigate situations. One day, they might help you in return. Always remember, it's impossible to never make mistakes. You never know when an error might happen. Leave some space, don't corner others with no way out. If you do, they may retaliate with everything they have, and then you'll be the one who suffers. Why invite such trouble? Nobody is perfect. When someone makes a mistake, think to yourself, I have made mistakes too. With that mindset, you'll naturally leave them some room instead of pushing them to the limit. In Chinese society, speaking less is often safer, as a careless word can easily cause trouble, because once you speak, what you say may be unintentional, but the listener takes it to heart, and there's nothing you can do about it. Let me share a historical example about the portraits of Zhu Yuanzhang, the founding emperor of China's Ming Dynasty. Zhu Yuanzhang was born ugly, so when he became emperor, he wanted someone to paint his portrait. When the portraits were completed and he saw how ugly they were, he ordered the painter to be executed. Then a second painter was brought in. His hands trembled as he thought, if I paint the emperor too realistically, I'll be killed. So he decided to paint the portrait less accurate, but more flattering. The emperor looked at it and said, am I really this handsome? And had him executed as well. Now imagine you are the third painter. What would you do? This is a well-documented historical story. The third painter was very clever. He painted Zhu Yuanzhang in a way that was somewhat accurate, but not entirely. A little ugly, but not too ugly, just enough. The emperor looked at it and said, not bad, and let him live. That painter survived. However, at some point, the painter felt uneasy, thinking, this means I acted dishonestly and behaved like someone who just flatters to survive. My descendants will never be able to hold their heads high. So he quickly painted another portrait, this time very accurate and lifelike, and kept it hidden. That's why today there are two portraits of Zhu Yuanzhang, one less accurate and flattering, and another highly realistic. The wisdom lies in knowing how to balance truth and survival. It means being honest enough to tell the truth, but also careful enough to stay safe. You don't always say everything exactly as it is if it could get you into trouble. Sometimes you have to adjust how you act so you don't cause offense. Being brutally truthful can be dangerous in some contexts. Always remember, because people have different perceptions, they will naturally hold different views. Every time you say something, some people will be pleased and some won't. If you offend one or two people each time, sooner or later you'll have offended everyone. In China, we are a very artistic people. We're not purely scientific. Even when we adopt scientific methods, we turn them into something artistic. Let me give you a scenario. If you were from the National Tax Bureau and sent to investigate a major tax case where a company had evaded tens of millions, What would you do when you arrived? Would you really speak out bluntly? If you did, you'd be unlucky. Saying, "The evidence shows you evaded tens of millions," would mean you're finished. You might not even make it back to the tax office alive. You could have a staged car accident that kills you halfway home. You'd be the one suffering. Clever people would go and say, "It's nothing, it's nothing. This has nothing to do with tax evasion," and then later quietly arrest them. It's not scientific, but it's very artful. In short, Western methods are scientific and precise. Chinese methods are often artistic and human-centered. Both have value, but they're different. If you want to operate effectively, learn the art. Lead with feeling. Let reason follow. Leave people room and handle mistakes with care.